U.S. President Donald Trump's ongoing Asia tour has now taken him to China. This is perhaps the most high-profile leg of the tour given the current geopolitical context. China sees Trump's visit as an opportunity to lay the foundation of a new big powers relationship that is mutually beneficial and sound. Towards this end, Chinese President Xi Jinping has already stated that his meetings with Trump so far have set a solid relationship for the growth of China-US ties. That said, there's no denying that North Korea today is the big diplomatic issue between the US and China. On that score, both sides agree that denuclearization of the hermit state is a desirable object. However, there's a significant difference in approach. While Trump has been trying to pile pressure on North Korea through verbal threats and military muscle flexing, recently sending 3 aircraft carrier groups and a nuclear submarine to the region, China has been insisting on dialogue and negotiations to resolve the issue. In other words, Trump has put all options on the table to deal with North Korea, including the military one, while Beijing is explicitly opposed to anything that leads to conflict at its doorstep. But at the heart of the matter is America's interventionist approach. While working through the UN and imposing sanctions on North Korea for testing nukes and missiles are all very well, it is America's military muscle flexing that is counterproductive. For this aspect highlights Washington's infamous propensity for imposing regime change in countries that don't fit the US's worldview. And Pyongyang has seen what has happened to autocratic regimes like those in Libya and Iraq that did not have nuclear weapons or issued their procurement. Similarly, non-nuclear Syria has been ravaged by a civil war that was in the initial years stoked by the US and its allies. Of course, none of this is a defense for the way the Kim Jong-un regime in Pyongyang behaves. But as an autocratic leader, Kim will use all options at his disposal to preserve the current North Korean system, which includes nuclear weapons. From Pyongyang's perspective, nukes are the only real insurance against US military intervention. Plus, Pyongyang has a huge arsenal of conventional artillery that puts the South Korean capital of Seoul and its 10 million denizens within range of a counterstrike. In sum, there is no way that North Korea will willingly abandon its nuclear program in the foreseeable future. The only path left for denuclearization, if that is at all possible, is through catalyzing political change in Pyongyang. This doesn't mean a regime change, but it would include incentives to get the reclusive state to open up and benefit from the global system in exchange for diluting its nuclear program. Admittedly, this would be a very slow process that would have to begin with the US formally bringing down the curtain on hostilities with North Korea. The two countries are still technically at war as the 195,053 Korean conflict only ended in a temporary armistice. This has to be followed by assurances that Washington has no problems with Kim Jong-un remaining at the helm of the North Korean regime. Subsequently, trade and commercial benefits, currently denied to Pyongyang, would have to be actualized to materially improve the standard of living of North Korean people. And finally, if North Korea is induced into the global system, it would hopefully be persuaded to dilute its nuclear program in lieu of all the gains accruing to it. Of course, the other option is to accept that North Korea is a nuclear state and move on. That may well be an easier course of action. But if denuclearization of the Korean peninsula is to be pursued, regime change in Pyongyang has to be off the table. And that means the US cutting back on its military muscle flexing. Disclaimer: views expressed above are the author's own. From around the web, more from the Times of India, recommended by Columbia.